This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman as we return to my interview with investigative journalist Allan Nairn in Indonesia, facing possible arrest for exposing that US-backed Indonesian armed forces assassinated a series of civilian activists last year. The Indonesian military has publicly denied Allan's report. A spokesman for the armed forces, Air Vice Marshal Sagam Tambon, told the Jakarta Globe that the military is considering filing a legal complaint against Nairn. Sagam said, quote, "If he's a good journalist and if he does have evidence, then he should come forward with the information that he has. But the problem is that Nairn hasn't been able to give us any clear evidence or tell us who his sources are. So how can we believe him?" Unquote. Well, I asked Allan Nairn to respond to Sagam's comments.
Well, first he should read the article. The article lays out evidence. For example, the Indonesian police made a deal with the military and some other Indonesian officials who stumbled across this assassination program and who weren't supposed to know about it. And they actually detained a number of the low-level military and military-sponsored hitmen who carried out one of the assassinations, the assassination of a man named Tumijan, who was a palm oil worker from Nagan Raya in Aceh. In that case, an officer named Captain Wahyu, a soldier named Octavianus, and at least 7 militia members who work for the TNI are under detention. I name them in my piece. The commander of the Aceh police confirmed to me on the record, Police General Aditya confirmed to me on the record that these men had in fact been detained for these murders. General Sunarko, the Kopassus general who ran the assassination program, also confirmed to me that his subordinates had been detained for the Tumijan murder. That's as specific as you can get. Yet, in their response, the Indonesian military doesn't even mention these detentions, and neither does the Indonesian press, so far as I've been able to see so far. There seems to be some fear about reporting, about getting that specific, about reporting the full facts about these military assassinations.
Allan Nairn, I want to play for you President Obama being interviewed. I believe this was last Thursday in the height of the health care debate. He had was just going to be announcing that he would be delaying his trip to Indonesia, but he did do an interview with Indonesian television. This is what he had to say.
Obviously, there has been some controversy in terms of military assistance in the past, but since the advent of democracy in Indonesia, what you've seen is the TNI make significant progress, separating itself out from the police, focusing more on broad external security issues as opposed to internal security issues. And so we've already begun more interactions, and our hope is that we can continue to improve on that front.
Is there a signal that your administration is satisfied with the military reforms and the resolution of the past human rights abuses in Indonesia?
Well, I think that we have to acknowledge that those past human rights abuses existed. And so we can't go forward without looking backwards and understanding that that was an enormous problem, not just for America, but it was a problem for the Indonesian people. We have seen significant progress, and so what we want to do is to continue to improve our consultation and move this forward into a more positive direction, because we want Indonesia to be a close partner for many years to come, and we want a prosperous and secure Indonesia.
Can you respond, Allan Nairn, to what President Obama has said?
Well, Obama is saying he's saying these crimes were in the distant past. These assassinations that I'm just reporting happened while Obama was president. They happened while Obama was president, while he was presiding over the training of, according to the Indonesian Defense Ministry, thousands of Indonesian military people. While he was shipping weapons and equipment to the Indonesian military, they were assassinating political activists in Aceh as Obama was sitting in the White House. So this is not a thing of the past. Secondly, when he refers to external security issues that the Indonesian armed forces are are focusing on. I would challenge the president to name one. There is absolutely no external security threat to Indonesia. Singapore is not about to invade. Australia is not about to invade. What the Indonesian armed forces are focusing on is what they've always focused on, the internal repression of the population. Now it's most intensive in the eastern part of the country, in Papua, which is under de facto occupation, but also they've been doing these political assassinations in Aceh. So what Obama says is just false.
Finally, Allan, President Obama says he will be going to Indonesia in June. What is happening between now and then? How set in stone is the resumption of aid to the Indonesian military?
Well, that's a good question. The pact, the aid deal, has not yet been announced. It was due to be announced when Obama was due to be here. In fact, it probably would have been announced yesterday. Now it's a bit up in the air. So if the U.S. public and Congress weigh in now and demand that Obama stop all aid to Kopassus, stop all aid to the Indonesian armed forces, there is some chance that this package could be defeated or cut back. So this is an opportunity. The delay of Obama's trip is an opportunity to save some lives, prevent some further murders in Indonesia by, again, cutting off U.S. aid to this military.
Investigative journalist Allan Nairn speaking from Indonesia, again facing arrest. To talk more about this story, we're joined by Damien Kingsbury. He's a professor at Deakin University in Melbourne, Australia, the author of several books in Indonesia, including Power Politics and the Indonesian Military. In 2006, he was on the negotiating team to the Aceh peace agreement. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Professor Kingsbury. If you could briefly talk about the significance of Allan Nairn's expose and what is happening now in Indonesia and the U.S. relationship with it, what renewed aid would mean.
Well, there is already a significant level of military aid to Indonesia. It has been occurring now for a number of years. What Allan's specifically referring to, and the real problem now, is the renewal of aid to Kopassus, to the Special Forces, which, as Allan has correctly pointed out, is guilty of numerous human rights abuses up until we know for a fact the end of last year. We also know that human rights abuses are continuing to occur almost as we speak in West Papua. So this is an organisation that has not reformed and continues to perpetrate the sorts of crimes that the Ley Amendment, American legislation, bans the United States government from assisting with.
And the significance of the threats by the Indonesian military right now around what Allan has exposed.
Well, look, if I was Allan and if I was in Indonesia, I think I'd be pretty concerned because, of course, he's being very brave. And if he goes to court, he may well have his moment in the sun. But the courts are notoriously corrupt and the military does hold great sway over the judicial process. So he would not get a fair hearing. He would not get to call the witnesses he wants. He would be found guilty. He would go to jail. I mean, apart from anything else. So I think they would concoct a visa violation, a crime against him, and that in itself would mean that he could go to jail for several years.
But is it possible they would have to then deal with the public being the audience to the expose that Allan has just done, both at Democracy Now! And AllanNairn.com?
I guess what we're assuming here is they have the same sort of open system that we have in more developed Western countries such as the United States and Australia. The reality is that Kopassus officers have been charged with various crimes in the past. They have even occasionally, not often, but occasionally taken to court. And what Kopassus does is they stack the gallery, they stop people from entering, they intimidate the judges, and the very few sentences that are handed down are very light given the crimes that they are up on, which are usually murder and the like. And very often these people are actually exonerated and allowed to go free. So it's not an open judicial process. It's not the sort of judicial process that we would expect to see in a developed Western country. And there being anything like a fair trial, I think, would be a very big ask at this stage.
Damien Kingsbury, I want to thank you for being with us, professor at Deakin University in Melbourne, Australia. Among his books, Power Politics and the Indonesian Military.